It's really important to have a multi-generational idea about money, because families that don't talk about money, it can create a lot of anxiety if there's issues, but like the kids can pick up on that. At the time, my husband at the time, my kids, and we all met at the lawyer's office to do our wills and things like that. And it was very unusual that the conversation around money was that open and multi-generational. And I was stunned, because I thought, my kids were adults, and it's like, this needs to be talked about, because it causes problems later if you don't get comfortable with it. And the other thing, just about growing up with or without money, so I saw what it's like to fail and then to start other businesses along the way. And I think that took away some of the fear. It's just sort of like, okay, it doesn't work, you try something else, and that was a very important moment for me.
You have less than 5 years to financially secure the future for not only sometimes your family, but for future generations. So you have to really learn to maximize that time. And one way you can do that is by being healthy. How do you take care of your body? Many athletes, you already know how to physically take care of your body. You know how to work out. You know how to get the reps in, how to run, how to lift. But do you know about recovery? Recovery is one thing that's often overlooked in sports.
Money is not meant to be hoarded. It's meant to be used as a tool to create the life we want now and future for ourselves and for others. The goal for that 12-month container is not for us to come tickle with your budget. I don't have time for that nonsense. We're not here for budgeting. We're here for ownership.
So it's interesting, what was considered safe 10, 15 years ago, it's not safe anymore. When you're buying a single family home, the value of the home is based on next door neighbor. Where did Mr. Jones sell his house? Oh, he cost $250,000. Okay, great. Like, I'm gonna buy it at $255. That sounds like about right. Or I'm gonna sell mine for $260 in 2 years. It went up, right? Commercial is totally different. Commercial is an actual operating business. You're buying a business. It's cash flowing. You're buying a business that has tenants that are paying rent, that there's employees involved. There's a lot of different people involved in the whole thing. And you have expenses, you have income. You're buying 200 units maybe, and you have economies of scale. If I have a single family home and my tenant moves out and I have to find a new tenant, it can sit empty for 3-4 weeks, maybe a month, maybe 2 months. That is stressful, because you're having to pocket that money and really pay out of pocket for the mortgage, for the taxes. And if it's a 200 unit apartment complex and 20 people move out, it's not that stressful, because you have economies of scale. You have the cushion of the other tenants helping with that cash flow and that net operating income.
You'll be surprised how fast you can spend money, no matter if it's $10,000, $15,000, or $500,000. You can find a way to spend it if you don't have discipline. The bigger the amount of money, just the larger the trips, and the larger the, people ask for money, or people ask you to invest in different things. But education is so key. And for someone who's feeling overwhelmed, just 3 or 4 years ago, I didn't know what financial freedom was. I didn't know what the difference between active and passive investing. If that's where you are today, you can draw a line in the sand and say, from this day forward, I'm going to educate myself to learn about money. I've learned so many things, or I've heard so many things from family members, but to actually actively take a role in learning, that's when it really started to change for me.
If you have $300,000 in the bank that you've saved up because you've been so good, it's losing at 9%. It's losing money. That's never happened before. Recession, this is the highest inflation rate in decades. So right now, if you're a saver, you're doing something more risky than putting it into something that either cash flows or goes up in value, or just making your money work for you. If you start thinking that way, like, whoa, that's more risky than putting it into investment, then your kind of whole world opens up.
you can't work yourself to wealth, right? I mean, there's only so many hours in a day. There's only so much work you can do, and you can only work for so long. So if your money and assets are not working for you while you sleep or while you vacation or while you take a sabbatical, then how are you going to achieve financial freedom or wealth? So that's very important, that mindset piece for sure.
Absolutely. And I think for your audience, depending on how much they've heard about mindset, I think sometimes people are like, what the heck is mindset? Like when I was starting out, I didn't know that word. Like I literally remember when I found out that like mindset and relationship with money was a thing, I literally broke down and cried because I was like, you mean this is what it's about? And no one is taking the time to really talk about it.
Ultimately, your relationship with your money is a reflection of your relationship with yourself, you know, and how you interact in the world and how you deal with conflict. My number one thing is teaching knowledge is power. And then also a lot of people that I talk to really kind of don't want to know where they're at, you know, and I just tell them it's like a GPS, you know, it's your longitude and your latitude. And you can't plan if you don't know, you know, you can't plan your journey if you don't know where your starting point is. And there's no judgment, but there can be a lot of self-judgment around, I should be further along than I am. Why didn't I do, you know, right? All the regrets, everything. But so we kind of don't want to know. But the only way we can get empowered is to actually find out and know, and then go, I am starting from here and I want to go to Chicago, or I'm starting from here and I want to go LA. And then you figure out like, what's the best way to go?
You're living your life, letting money determine your life, as opposed to you living your life and determining your money. So letting the money drive your life. So regardless of how much you have, if that's what's happening, then there's something that's going on here that's not aligning well. And the reason that I found is that the three relationships really are the core when it comes to how we create the life that we want. And when I say the three relationships, it's relationship with yourself, relationship with money, and relationship with others. And obviously I can write a whole book about that because I wrote the whole book about that. And what I did with the book is it wasn't only just about relationships, it was walking us through why we are where we are today and explaining why it's not just about the number piece, but also going towards sharing what I call like timeless wisdom when it comes to money. So a lot of times people will ask things like, so what should I invest in? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, y'all are asking the wrong question. Because if that was the right question, ChatGPT would not be able to answer it, right? If you go online right now and you Google what are 20 ways I can invest, Google's going to tell you stuff. But there's a reason why you're still not doing it. There's a reason why you're not going and doing it. It's because you either don't know what to do, or you have blocks in your mind that is preventing you from being able to take the step that you need to take towards that.
If you feel crappy about the interaction, find somebody who doesn't make you feel crappy. Now, if there's somebody who just knows you and yeses you to death and whatever, that's not healthy either. And hopefully you have the right kind of ego to be able to tell the difference. But if you don't, I can't help you.
Yeah. And one thing too, my wife and I, we do Money Matters together. And I think that helps because she's the question asker. You know, if something doesn't smell right, she's going to ask questions until she feels good about it. And I think somebody has to take on that role, because if you just sit there and nod your head, you'll be signing off on something that you really have no clue about. But make sure you get a good understanding. And I think that's what you kept saying over and over, really.
Yeah, and I think transparency is really important. You want people who are very biased towards transparency. Like they're very upfront about, okay, these are the fees, these are, like, you know, and this is the other thing is you can ask whether are these all the fees? Specifically, what are the specific, right? And so whenever somebody doesn't answer your question directly, that's a big warning sign. The more you automate, the more you make one big decision and just have it be taken out of your paycheck, say, and you get used to that. And meanwhile, the money is being put to work. As your income grows, to not grow your expenses, to sort of you want to enjoy life and your expenses can go up, but they just shouldn't go up one for one, right? That you can sort of enjoy that cushion and build that cushion, particularly if you're young and starting out. And if you're starting out, the power of compounding, just time is your friend. Just start, like even if it's $5, you've got the habit. And then you're watching that $5 do its thing.
If you don't talk about money, then you're paralyzing yourself and you're halting the amount of growth that you can have.